Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. And today let us discuss on AWS versus Azure, which will be beneficial in 2023 for your career. So, if you are complete freshers on cloud space, you might be confused. What should we pursue? Because if you take AWS path or Azure path, maybe going forward you'll be keep learning the same. I mean, there are exceptions. If you are a cloud architect, possibly you need to know everything like AWS, Azure, GCP, and all cloud. But if you're a developer or a support personnel, or if you want to learn a specific, if you just wanted to start your cloud journey, so sticking a specific cloud technology would be beneficial. So I'll talk about AWS and Azure, but there are few other cloud provider, public cloud provider, basically like GCP, Google Cloud provider, and we have IBM, we have VMware Cloud as well. So those are they're in the market, but considering AWS and Azure having a better market share, we'll talk about AWS and Azure. So AWS is slightly older. I think 2006 onwards it has started, and Azure started somewhere between I think 2012 or something. So definitely AWS is much older, and Azure is slightly newer. Earlier it was Windows Azure. Now it is completely changed to as Azure. So I'll talk about these four pointer here: opportunities, service available, certification, including cost, and who should learn what. So that will be a bonus topic. I will try to tell you because I have both AWS and Azure certificates. I have gone through their learning path. So I'll tell you what might be beneficial for you. So please be with me. So the opportunity, I mean, as per my understanding or what I have seen, if we compare both AWS and Azure, AWS has slightly more opportunity than Azure. So it's not about service based and product based. Everywhere cloud has accepted, and there are people who are using Azure, there are teams who are using AWS. But comparatively, like I have seen, AWS is slightly it is having a like slightly higher market share also. Opportunity are slightly high in terms of AWS, so definitely here AWS is a winner. But having said that, Azure is also popular, but I would give a benefit here to AWS. So service available, like service offering. So I would say AWS and Azure both of them having similar services. So all services which are available in Azure are available on AWS majorly. But one point I would say, sometimes some services offered by Azure are slightly lower cost. So some companies usually prefer Azure. It is not true for all the services. So in some companies, they go for a hybrid AWS and Azure both, but that is rare. But even though slightly, I would say there are certain services where service cost is much cheaper in Azure. And like there are if the existing on-premises server in Windows, so people are usually prefer to migrate them in Azure. And if the existing OS are in Linux or Unix, usually company prefer to migrate to AWS because of lower cost or easy migration. But I mean, it is not usually true always, but anyway, this is the practice. Also, like Azure, I mean, since Windows has AD like for login and user management, similar AD can be entirely migrated to Azure AD. So that is one good point. So a company have already maintaining their Active Directory for users, they tend to use Azure initially. But again, AWS has their own user mechanism, but which is not AD. So I think I cleared two till this level. Now certification path. So I would say AWS certification path is slightly difficult than Azure, though they are offering multiple certification, AWS and Azure. However, AWS certification cost is higher. Like if I take an example, AWS certified AWS Solution Architect Associate comes somewhere around 12,500 rupees, where all Azure certification are majorly cost around 4,800 rupees. And if you usually all service based MNCs or Big Four, they have I mean they have a tie up with like Microsoft Learning Portal. So usually you get 50% to 100% coupon code if you are preparing for Azure. But in AWS, sometimes coupon is given, but sometimes you need to go to exam, take the exam, then you can reimburse. So Azure exams usually are free or 50% cost if your company is tied up with Microsoft Learn. Otherwise, I mean, for AWS, you need to pay slightly higher. And if I talk about the difficulty level is also high in AWS. I would say like it's here Azure is slightly easy to Azure exams are slightly easy to pass, and AWS exams are slightly difficult to pass. But there is one advantage I feel in AWS. In AWS, since exam are slightly lengthy, the questions are slightly lengthy. What I have compared to Azure, so you could ask for 30 minutes extra time if you are non-native speaker. So Indians can opt for extra 30 minutes. So definitely if you are going to attend any of the AWS exam, just ask for 30 minutes extra accommodation. So that before exam they will ask whether you need any extra accommodation or not. You can tick that, so you'll get 30 minutes extra time for AWS exam. That facility is not available in Azure. But having said that, Azure exam are slightly easier than AWS. And the last question, the most important and interesting, who should learn what? So the answer would be everybody, like whatever you feel like start. I mean, if you are completely freshers in AWS or cloud space, start any of them. Both are better. But I have little based on my experience, I could say people who are from .NET background specifically or any Microsoft background, they should directly go to Azure because Microsoft own Azure, and there are major services. If you are working with a Microsoft component, like maybe it's a .NET web application or Windows application or a MyUI, like mobile apps or any other app, so that can be directly integrated with Azure. And if you're a guy who is maintaining a server or working with SQL Server, any of the Microsoft product by any mean, I think Microsoft Azure, learning Azure would be beneficial for you. Now, if you are a Java guy or if you are a programmer apart from .NET, then I think it's wise to go with AWS. And if you are also a Linux admin, go with AWS rather going with Azure. So the chances are, if your company there's a requirement to migrate your on-premises Linux system, so they will possibly go with AWS, not Azure. Similarly, if you are a Windows administrator, then possibly your company, I mean, learn Azure because possibly your company will migrate your on-premises uh, infra to Azure infra. But again, like I would say, that is this is not completely true, because some company I have seen like they are using Java with Azure, and some company they are using AWS with .NET. So this is completely depend on the company's tie up, and sometimes some of the components in AWS are quite cheap, so that billing and all it is there. But having said that, this combination I've seen it is beneficial. And once you master to any of the cloud technology, you can easily switch between, because whatever services are there in Azure, same is there in AWS, just is a different name and slightly different configuration. So be master one of them, and then you can, if required, you can learn other one. Okay, so that is all about this video. If you like this video, just give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.